Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Yeah, we're defying the odds.
Defying the odds.
What
are the odds? Whatever the odds are, we are defying them. They will be defied by us.
Never tell me the odds, Norm, because it's May the 4th. Be with you. At least it was 11 days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
We never talked about this last week, but it's our birthdays. We both had birthdays.
I had a birthday on Saturday.
How was it? Did you have a good time?
No.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that in hour 2.
But I was wondering, just in general, do you have a good birthday? Unrelated.
Oh, I had a
you had a good morning.
No, I had a great birthday. I had a great morning. I took a bunch of people to the game, which was really fun. We had some Spanish, Portuguese food before. No, it was a great day.
In the Ironbound,
Except I gave my team a chance to really come through for me, and they did not. But anyway, that's the talk for hour 2.
But I thought
in this hour, I had a great birthday.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk about that part of the birthday.
Bochum, VfL Bochum, still alive.
And they're alive. 15th. They're out of the moment.
Yeah, it was a big game. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to go on some kind of bandwagon where I'm going to say, "Oh, I believed it all along." I did not believe in this team.
No, we have proof. We have hours and hours of audio.
Yeah, hours and hours. You could listen to me saying how I really don't think they're going to make it. And but certainly at this point, with 2 games to go, they are not in a relegation spot. And if you had told me that before the season, I would have been like, that's amazing. So it is amazing. And that game was kind of a microcosm of the season, where scored an early goal, gave it back pretty quickly, and then it's always better to be lucky than good.
Well, Augsburg there are no pushovers. They had a good season. So for you you needed to win somewhere, and this is where you got the win. So well done. All the other bottom feeder teams, because remember how I said it's not just Bochum, it's your company. Like, it's not about Bochum succeeding. It's about Schalke failing.
And
really.
the other teams also, nobody else won. So that was the
bingo. That
was it. When we win and nobody else does, that's going to be good because people don't have a lot of points. And yeah, then there's a lot of luck involved. There were 2 deflected goals. The first goal was amazing. Antwi Ajay, early on, 2nd minute, killer shot from a tough angle. But then the other 2 goals were sort of deflected, and Toto Luzia, the captain really was everywhere, ran up and down, and rewarded himself with a fortunate goal, a shot that was deflected by actually former Bochum player Elvis Regensburg, who went to Augsburg but helped us out inadvertently.
His name is Elvis?
His name's Elvis. And
nice.
And then Augsburg scored, and it was nervy. There was a lot of suffering for me this Bundesliga. I'm happy in the end, Bochum on 15th place. And with a chance to do it, but it was nervy the whole weekend. The Friday game was nervy. Köln against Hertha. Hertha took 2 leads in that game, and I was like, oh boy.
Lots of great games over the weekend, by the way. Lots of
goals. Lots of goals. Many goals.
We had a 5-2. We had a 6-0. We had another
5-2.
We had a 4-2
and a 3. Yeah.
And the 3-2, goals galore. And it's the relegation special. We got fun up top, we have fun in the middle, and we've got fun on the bottom. Bochum getting a good 3-2 win over Augsburg. Hertha cling on for dear life. I think it was the kiss of death in Cologne, right? I believe it was a confident, like you said, Hertha came in early, but Cologne finished that game 5-2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in the end, it wasn't close. So it's like, right. You see this result, and you're like, what was nervy about that? But the first half, I was like, is Köln gonna screw us? And because if Hertha had won, because Hertha plays Bochum next week, and so I definitely was worried that if they felt like they still had a chance, then they, this would go differently. But at this point, yeah, thanks to this loss, it's probably curtains for Hertha. And then, the Schalke game was not close.
Hold on. Can I offer the Hertha thing? There's a German phrase that I do not remember, but it's maybe you'll remember it or know about it. It's about a team with nothing to play for is a very difficult team to play against. Something like that. If that makes sense. Like Hertha next week. They're essentially playing like there's no tomorrow because there is no tomorrow. There's very little for them to. There's very little belief
I think
left.
Mathematically, they still need to. They're going to try and win. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, they have those nerves. That's what I'm saying. Because with those nerves, they'll go down. If the nerves are gone and they're playing like they have nothing to lose, then Bochum are in for a tough game next week. Because with that kind of mentality, it's tough to play against.
Bochum has not had an easy game all season. It's like they are not. Nothing is easy for them. They're not. I was listening to Beer and Honey earlier, the Raphael Honigstein and Christoph Biermann podcast.
The one that copied our entire format.
Basically, yeah. And he was saying...
One of their real quick, I hate to interrupt. One of their Fußball Deutsch words is Sonntagsschuss.
Sonntagsschuss, yeah.
That was our Fußball Deutsch word.
They had we had one of those. Yeah, they had a couple today. They had Restprogramm. Restprogramm is the rest of the schedule. I don't know. That doesn't seem like such a
But Sonntagsschuss they stole from us. Sonntagsschuss. In the era of what happened? Where did you go? Sorry, my monitor turned off randomly. In the era, I live here in Hollywood, and we live in the era of the writer's strike and the AI.
Oh, right, yeah.
Writing nonsense where AIs are stealing people's art and people are having AIs write crap and all that crap that I really do not like. And I listen to Beer and Honey and I think, wow, this sounds like really creative work that people did earlier, about a month or so earlier, that seems to be reapplied. So I'm saying is they're stealing our creativity is all I'm saying.
Well, it's probably just a coincidence, right? Like they're not.
Oh, I don't know about that, Bjorn. I think they're spying. I think they're our listeners.
Well,
how we only have 2 listeners?
I
think it's the creators of that podcast are listening.
Christoph and Rafa, if you're listening to this and you're stealing our shit, I'm honored. I'm honored to be ripped off by you.
We have an email if you want to have a consultancy. We have an email. All I'm saying.
Talk to us. Anyway,
so Beer and Honey, we're talking about the Bochum game.
Oh, they were saying how, like Christoph Bier, who is a Bochum guy and fan also, he was saying how like Stuttgart are clearly better than both Bochum and Schalke, but somehow they just don't get their point. They don't have as many points, and so they may just. But they're clearly the better team. Just because you were saying, oh, it's not going to be an easy game, there are no easy games.
No.
The games that are supposedly easy, the ones, the home games against Stuttgart, the home game against Schalke, where we're like, okay, this is really 3 points we got to have. We lost, but we're finding them somewhere, and we're gonna see. The Stuttgart game was also very nervy. That was a late equalizer for Leverkusen. Leverkusen looked like they had no interest in playing this game at all. They're in between their Europa League situation, heavily rotated squad. And for Stuttgart, this was a big game, and they had a lead, got a lead in the second half, and I was very worried because that would have been troublesome for us if Stuttgart had won. But then the equalizer stood, and it's 1-1. So if you wanna If you want to go from the bottom, Hertha at 25 points, probably done.
Lady Bundesliga.
Stuttgart 29, Schalke 30, Bochum 31, Hoffenheim 32. That's probably it. Now, the schedule wrinkles here, the Restprogramm nuggets are the Hertha Bochum game next week. And then Schalke and Stuttgart and Hoffenheim play each other at the very last game. So that's also somebody's going to drop points there. So
the Pellegrino derby.
The Pellegrino past and present derby, yeah. So
and I'm rooting for Pellegrino present, baby. I think Hoffenheim, when they got Pellegrino in, it was 5 losses in a row. Despite their loss over the weekend, they seem to have finally turned it around. And I root for Hoffenheim's survival. I root for Bochum's survival. I think Hertha and Stuttgart are going down, or Hertha and Schalke more likely, right?
But here's for Hoffenheim, they're not out because they're playing Union Berlin next week, who are fighting for the Champions League spot.
Yeah,
and they got a big win. They got a big win over Freiburg, so they're still going for something, and. So that's not easy. And then it's Stuttgart on the last game. So Hoffenheim is still very much in there. The upshot being that for Bochum, it's a huge opportunity. If they can get something out of this Hertha game, perhaps even a victory, that would really go a long way to be out of there. But do I think, they're definitely going to do that? No, this could also easily go poorly. I don't know. This has been a very up and down kind of a season. But like I said, I'm delighted that there's a chance, and that's going to be very exciting. Do you want to talk about the top?
Lady Bundesliga is a fickle dame that dares to be wooed, Bjorn.
I mean, this is the most exciting season we've had in a bunch of years.
On both sides.
There's a lot going on with 2 games to go.
There's 5 or 6 clubs that could be in the second division in 2 weeks, right? That's Hertha, Stuttgart, Schalke, Bochum, Hoffenheim. Am I missing anybody?
I think Augsburg's probably good at 34. Yeah.
Of those 5, 2 or 3 of them could be second division teams in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My monitor keeps turning off, and I would love to know why. Anywho, yeah, and then up top, I would say maybe a little less exciting because Dortmund are finally playing the way they should have been playing a month ago. This week, and since they're playing with a fire under their ass, they're finally playing with the belief that they can maybe win the Bundesliga this year. This week they had a 5-2, and then last week they had that 6-0, right, against Wolfsburg, I think it was. They're playing like a team possessed. It's like, this might be 1 week too late. This is 1 week too late. Because who else is playing like a team possessed, ready to win the title? Is Bayern München. 6-0 against Schalke. And did they have maybe it was a 2-1 last week. I forget who they played. But they had 6-0 against Schalke. You know how you said Bochum doesn't have any easy games? Well, Bayern München every now and then has an easy game. And they had a really easy game over the weekend against a very listless Schalke.
They love playing Schalke. I think there was something. It's like over their last 3 or 4 games, it's 20-0 or something. Yeah, I don't know. There was a lot made out of this game. It's the Thomas Müller renaissance. He started. The president said he's undroppable. I guess he was giving some flack to Tuchel for not playing Müller. Müller said that these rumors about him leaving or going to another club were exaggerated. He's red through and through, and. Yeah, I don't know. It's like you're playing Schalke, man. Curb your enthusiasm, I would say. Yeah. This is not good opposition. They've had a couple of they've played better. They've had a couple of more convincing results, but it has to be said against pretty mediocre to bad opposition. They beat Schalke, they won in Bremen, they beat Hertha at home. Those are their last 3 wins. Those are not good teams. Before that, they lost to Mainz. They lost to Mainz. They got a tie against Hoffenheim. They got knocked out of the Champions League. So this is going to be the test. This Saturday, we're going to really see, because it's Leipzig, and Leipzig are also, what you're saying about Dortmund is just as true or more about RB Leipzig, who are finally rounding into form now. At the very end of the season, we kept sort of hyping them all year as this as a potential contender, and it never really materialized. But now they are firmly in third.
As a Bundesliga fan, am I in the wrong to be like Bayern München versus Leipzig, which is the big game, right? It's the big game. Can Leipzig get a tie? Can they steal some points off Bayern this weekend to propel Dortmund in first if they capitalize on their game?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So this game has big implications. However, historically, over the last 10 seasons, any type of big moment, big game, Der Klassiker, whatever, by minute 10, Bayern's usually up 7 goals.
Slight exaggeration,
but
yes.
It's a slight exaggeration.
But the point is well taken, yep.
Like I have a feeling, fool me once, right? I have a feeling that by 30 minutes in, it'll be like 4-0 Bayern München. And the game will essentially be over and the title will be decided, and that's the end of it. Is that me? Is that my anxiety speaking?
I mean, I can't make a case against this. That is true. That is what has happened over the last few years. I think this Bayern team is not the same. I still believe. I think, they've won 3 in a row, but against, like I said, like I just said, against pretty mediocre opposition. There are like all kinds of stats quoted. Oh, their XG is up. If you're defensively, the defensive XG is down. It's like if you're playing Bremen and Hertha and Schalke, it's like, come on. So this is going to be the test. And I mean, yeah, in general, you're right. These kinds of, but I think it's also a little different because these are generally when the games that we're talking about are like the contenders really against each other. In this case, Leipzig doesn't have the pressure.
No.
They're
going to
just
finish
kind of
third,
fighting.
right? They're
probably. I mean, Freiburg losing, they now have four points and the goal differential over Freiburg to get into the Champions League. So they're in a pretty good position. They're going to need one more win somewhere. So they still have stuff to play for, but they don't have that pressure. It's not like, oh, if you lose this, you're out. So I think the dynamic is a little different from those like the games that you're talking about when it's sort of Dortmund, because also the last few years it's been a stretch. It's been like, oh, win this game and then you're only like 6 points behind instead of 12 or something.
Right.
So this is a little bit different. So it's going to be a little more nervy for Bayern. It's going to be a little less pressure for Leipzig. But listen, am I going to put a lot of money on this not being a blowout for Bayern? No, but one can hope for a little excitement. I mean, really, the way this has gone, what really would be the appropriate ending is that Bayern would draw points against Leipzig. Dortmund would go into the last game with the lead, and then they draw points.
We'll bottle it.
Remember, on the last game, and Bayern would come from behind. I think that would be really the most sort of on brand ending to the year.
And Dortmund would deserve it. I hate to say it because I know
they have no one. They've got no one. They have no one to blame.
But themselves.
They have lots of, and I guess the ref in the Bochum game.
That's true. That's true.
They have him to blame. They got him to blame as well. So it's not just them. But
if Dortmund lose the league by a point this year, that decision's going to get quite a bit of infamy, isn't it?
Riemann would have saved it. I don't know. It's not worth fussing over. Riemann would have had it that day.
Well, but anyway. So, despite my anxiety, it's the big game. It's the big moment. It's the Leipzig.
But
it's in München. It's in front of their own fans. But
on game day 32, anything to be anxious about is a plus.
True.
This has not been. I mean, usually the last 10 years we've been like 4 years. We're like 3 weeks past Bayern celebrating the title.
At least. Sometimes it's done by February or March or something. March or April.
Probably not March or April.
Yeah. But no, I'm all about it. So we got some excitement. Dortmund could still maybe win this. This weekend's the big weekend. Like I said, Leipzig. Can Leipzig pull off the points? Christopher Nkunku is healthy and well. That's a big plus for Leipzig. He was a big miss for them this season. And what I was going to bring up with what you mentioned with Dortmund losing on the last day, in the late 90s, early aughts, Bayer Leverkusen were probably the second best team in Germany, maybe alongside Borussia Dortmund.
At times, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were the only other German team to make it to the Champions League final where they lost against Real Madrid and Zinedine Zidane scored that great goal.
Klaus Toppmöller. Klaus
Toppmöller.
Legendary coach Klaus Toppmöller.
Whose son is rumored to take over Frankfurt. We'll get to that in a second.
Yes.
But anyway.
Frankfurt or Gladbach? Maybe both.
Maybe he's linked to both. We'll talk about that in a second.
Maybe he's linked to either. They said, we'll just say this one quick thing where Christoph Biermann said, well, he was mentioning Dino Toppmöller and said, then older listeners might remember his dad, Klaus. I was like, ouch, thank you. Thank you,
Well, I remember him. He coached up until, a few years ago, 5-10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Anywho, Bayer Leverkusen, I don't think I've ever won the Bundesliga, not in the modern era, at least, or it's been a while. I'd have to Google that. But I want to say that same year or the year prior or the year ahead, they were leading the league by a point or two on the last day over Bayern München. And they lost 2-0 to Unterhaching on that last game, a club who's is like, in the 4th division nowadays. Who knows where that club ended up. They lost 2-0, and then Bayern München, I think, tied Hamburg. And that was all that point gave Bayern München the title, and Bayer Leverkusen lost it on the last day. They are perennial. And it's part of the Michael Ballack silver medal story.
Schalke did that one. Did that once famously. Yeah, there is some potential this year again for some heartbreak of that sort.
But what you said is almost double heartbreak. It's like Dortmund finally get their spot. They lose at the end to Bayern München. Oliver Kahn keeps his job. Thomas Tuchel's a hero, Well, anyway, there's plenty of room for heartbreak, and the Bundesliga is exciting this year, as Derek Ray keeps reminding everybody on Twitter. There is a point where it's like, all right, just watch the league. You don't have to keep proselytizing all the time. They can't be like, look, this is the most exciting. Look, it's exciting. Look. It's like, yeah, it's fine. We get it.
Well, I think we've sufficiently discussed how Derek Ray is not the subtlest of dudes.
But we love him here. Despite our ribbing, I know Bjorn maybe less so, but we love him here on the Schütze Boys podcast. We're going to have Derek on one of these days.
All right.
Anywho, so that's the news and notes as far as the competition side of things. Right, we got Bayern up top. We got the things on the bottom. Now let's talk a couple of news stories.
The coaching.
Frankfurt, right?
The coach, das Trainerkarussell. The coaching, das Trainerkarussell.
Das Trainerkarussell.
The way how Derek would say it. The coach's carousel is in full. Is picking up speed. We had.
Well, what have I been saying over and over again? Are my two favorite coaches in the Bundesliga?
Glasner and Farke.
Well, no, almost. Glasner and Urs Fischer.
Oh, right, Urs Fischer.
Daniel Farke, I never brought up.
What about Christian Streich?
I like Christian Streich a lot. I like him more off the field versus on the field. Oh, God, that reminds me. We forgot to bring up Freiburg, who lost heavy to Union Berlin and lost heavy to Leipzig twice. So they have been fumbling their big games later here in the season.
Yeah, it looks like their Champions League dreams are crumbling at the last minute.
So our heart goes out to Freiburg fans. They had a good season. They're still doing great. It's just as far as their big games go, They faltered 3 in a row.
Yeah, and they've been in a. I mean, they've been in a Champions League spot for a lot of the season, probably most.
And now they
of the
sit
season.
in a Europa League spot. Yeah.
Now it's a Europa League for them.
But what I will say is Flyboy is more of a Europa League caliber club, right? Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Where like,
well, I mean, you could say that about Union as well. But now they're hitting it now that it's.
God, I can't wait for Real Madrid to go. I can't wait for Real Madrid to play away games in the Stadion an der Försterei. But that's going to happen, and I can't wait. Anyway,
Oliver Glasner, one of your favorites. He's out.
Last week, we shared the video where he had an outburst. Clearly, he was under a lot of pressure.
It was clear him and his Sportdirektor are not friends.
No. And then, this is crazy. And then they announce he's done at the end of the season. Just announces like he's done. Mm-hmm. But he's still going to coach them to the end of the season. Like he's a total lame duck.
A lame duck.
Why is that smart? Like that's very rare, right? It's very rare. Trying to think if I've thought of a recent example of something like that. I mean, and it's pretty rare.
With players, it's more it's less rare in Germany somehow than it is in America. In America, that never happens. Almost never. You're either
like with Oliver Glasner.
When you get canned, somebody stands next to you, puts your stuff in a box, and escorts you out of the building immediately.
Yeah,
so it's not like, oh yeah, hang out for a couple. No, but in Germany that sometimes happens that players, players are leaving even though they're still going to play, and I guess in this case it's also the coach.
Well, the players leaving is not uncommon. That we see in football. It's just everyone's professional, do their thing, and there you go. With coaches, though, I mean, I can't think of too many. Yeah. What's the reason them like if you're gonna fire him, and let the assistant do the last 3 games?
Yeah, but they still need I don't know. They still have a.
What is Oliver Glasner's motivation to do well with his team over these next 2 matches?
Well, I mean, why not? He's still getting paid, right? He's also gonna. I mean, that's gonna be in. He's going to want to win that cup final and be like, oh, yeah, you're sure you're going to want to... I mean, it's
That's the other crazy part of this story, Bjorn. You just brought it up. Oliver Glasner has been the coach of Frankfurt for 2 seasons. Last season, they won the Europa League. They won Europe. This season, they're in the cup final to win a domestic trophy.
They made it out of the Champions League group stage. That's no small thing.
It seems like Oliver Glasner, his performance speaks for itself.
Well, it doesn't.
Like I'd love to know what is going on because they got rid of him pretty heftily over Wolfsburg too. Remember, he was doing great. They're like, you know what, goodbye. There must be something about how he works with people behind the scenes.
Well, it seems like he is a bit of a my way or the highway type guy. I think what I've heard speculation that because he came up in a very small club in Austria, where he was, judge and jury and Sportdirektor, and it was his thing, and he seems to have trouble sharing some of that authority with other people. Like in the Bundesliga, that's not the case. There's other people who have opinions and some contributions, and that seems to be a problem for him. I don't know how that exactly manifests itself.
Okay,
day to day, yeah,
that could be true, but I'll raise this question: what great head coach isn't like that? Like, what do you want in a head coach? A yes man who bends over backwards for the sport? You know what I mean? Tell Jurgen Klopp he only gets half an opinion. Tell Jose Mourinho. Tell Pep Guardiola. Tell all these great managers that they're really just there to be done what they're told by the sport director. Great coaches have egos. They're in charge. So, like, if Oliver Glasner is unapologetically in charge, that's who you're hiring. He's the head coach. So, my thing is that Glasner's problem or is that a club structure problem? And I'm wondering, look at Wolfsburg. I'm sure they would have. Are they better off without Glasner now? And is Frankfurt going to be better off without Glasner next year?
Well, I think they're going to have a hard time finding, because Their squad's not great. Kolo Muani is going to go to Bayern presumably, or leave someplace. So, but they have this idea that they're going to be, they want to be a Europa League, Champions League type team. So, not just in the cup, but also in the Bundesliga. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they're going to find, if they're going to be better, but it seems
the head. I
think you never know, right? It's hard to. We're not behind the scenes. There's always.
The head of the list to replace him is Dino Topmuller. Who's never been a head coach a day in his life.
Klaus's son, but his dad was.
Son. Yeah, but who cares? He's not his dad. His dad's long retired. But what I'm saying is Dino Topmuller, they're announcing, we're going to get rid of Glass and replace him with this unknown, and they're announcing it now, 2 weeks before the final. And I'm like, what the heck is that? What kind of business is that? Wait till the summer, would you? I don't get it. Maybe it's my American brain.
Well,
here, but
I think this is like a case of, and I think I have another club that is in a similar situation. I think this is a case of like Bayern Light. This sort of this idea. Oh, we should be better, based on. I mean, in Bayern's case, obviously there's a track record. In Frankfurt's case, there's sort of a track record, but it's a couple decades ago. And I think they just have this idea that they should be better, and then when you're thinking about that as a club president or a Sportdirektor, and you're like, oh, it's the coach, and then we're going to find somebody else, but it could also get worse, so you never know.
But they're replacing him with an unknown quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so excited about it too. They're like, Dino, good news! This proven winner, who we have on our books and we're paying. This proven winner, we're going to get rid of that guy. And we're going to replace him with an unknown quantity. And they're clapping about it. What the heck is that? What the heck is that, man? I don't get it. I'm not a sport director, but I don't get it.
The same thing could be said about Mönchengladbach. Borussia Mönchengladbach. They're letting Daniel Farke go, probably. I don't think that's been official, but it sounds like. And they're in for a complete... I mean, even more so than Frankfurt. They're in for a total do-over. There's a lot of people leaving.
Lars Stindl is going to Karlsruhe in the lower leagues.
Stindl is going. Thuram is going. I'm sure there'll be other people. That's going to be a total do-over. And Farke, yeah, I guess he had this sort of possession game that he tried to. But it's a squad. That was a squad that was in the Champions League a couple of years ago, not too long ago, and there were a lot of players on that squad that were playing. So it's not like.
Who was their coach? Was it Adi Hutter? Who did that again?
And there was Lucien Favre for a while. They had other people.
When they played Real Madrid in the
they had some
Champions League. That was their highest thing.
And now I don't know. Now it's do-over time for them. And is it going to get better necessarily? Maybe, but it can. But maybe not. It's not. It's like these teams. They have had glorious pasts. I mean, Mönchengladbach even more so than Frankfurt. But also then longer ago in some ways, like their real golden days were in the 70s. So, I think it's tricky, this idea of like, well,
Marco Rose, sorry,
we deserve to be in a certain. It's not your name. It's not the shirt. It's not the shirt that wins games.
Well, what I will say, it's a little bit different comparing Oliver Glasner to Daniel Farke. Because I was just saying that the last two coach, Adi Hutter and Marco Rose. So when they were in the Champions League, I think it was under Marco Rose, if I'm not mistaken. They were really good under Rose.
Yeah.
Anywho, and they got rid of him also 6 months earlier. That's a whole other thing. And then Dortmund brought him in, they got rid of him and replaced him with Edin Terzic, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, Daniel, Glasner's a proven winner.
Yeah, but
Daniel Farke is an example of what I talked about last week with Jesse Marsch. He's the David Wagner principle. He did what David Wagner did. David Wagner went to England, took over Huddersfield Town. He was an obscure Dortmund youth coach, went and took over Huddersfield Town, brought him up to the Prem, and made his name that way. And that got him a job at Schalke, which I was really excited about. But then we saw what happened to Schalke, and Schalke's never been the same. And now he's coaching Norwich. He's coaching in Switzerland, but now he's coaching the Championship again to essentially do it again. Daniel Farke did the same thing. He was the head coach of Norwich
brought Norwich into the Prem.
He was essentially doing what David Wagner's doing now. He brought Norwich in the Prem, so he did the same thing. And Bundesliga clubs see a young, hip German coach bringing a Championship club up to the Prem. They think it's a good appointment. It does seem like that is on paper. But once again, just like David Wagner and Schalke, Daniel Farke and Borussia Mönchengladbach did not work out amazingly. But the last few coaches, Farke has been one of the more disappointing ones. Maybe it's time for them to get their hands on Oliver Glasner. Maybe that carousel will keep going. Maybe Glasner to Gladbach. You already hear folks. So it's a little bit different because Farke is not someone who is a proven winner. I mean, what titles does he want? Did he win the championship? No, right?
Yeah, but like, I don't know anyone who's. Well, he took. Yeah, I mean, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. The championship is in some ways the toughest league there is because it's so competitive. There's so many games. It's such small margins. So I think anybody who does that, I think we talked about that last week. I don't think this is like a surefire thing. Oh, that's an easy, you just that's how you build your reputation. I mean, these are big accomplishments, I think. It's not weird.
I'm not trying to
weird to it's not weird to find to hire somebody like that. I don't know.
I thought the David Wagner appointment at Schalke was very smart. I thought the Farke appointment was also very creative. But both those failed, so
it hasn't
maybe
worked out. Yeah.
It hasn't worked out, so maybe that was a fad that's ending. But anyway, we'll see. Who's Gladbach's next coach? You say Dino Topmüller was up for that too?
That's what I heard. I think, unless I could. I mean, it's possible that I'm mixing it up. I don't know.
Seems like Dino Topmüller's
early days.
Seems like Dino Topmüller is the hot man on campus right now. He was Nagelsmann's assistant. You can't touch Nagelsmann because Nagelsmann is damaged goods, or he's trying to get a gig in England or whatever. But you can touch his assistant.
Not going to Tottenham.
Not going to Tottenham. He's not going to Chelsea. He's not going to Tottenham.
Not going to Chelsea. Not going to Tottenham. It's unclear.
Maybe he's going to PSG. Who knows?
Maybe he'll take over the U.S. men's national team.
Ooh, I would be fine with that. Or how about this one? How about this one? He becomes the head coach of Borussia Dortmund next year.
Huh? Oh, and Terzic is going to get fired?
No, but I'm saying hypothetically, what a great coach appointment, because get a guy who's angry at Bayern München, Dortmund's his home. That's the place to go.
Amazing.
Hello, Daniel Young, in the chat, our fan, Daniel Young. How you doing, bud?
Let's go.
Good to see you. The other thing I wanted to bring up, there's a couple things I want to bring up. Anyway, the coaching carousel continues. I feel very strongly that Oliver Glasner is being mistreated. Now, granted, the other part of this is he's being very publicly emotional. And,
like serially or just that one time?
Well, just that one time. But in a culture like, say, Mexico or Brazil or Argentina or, heck, even England, that's encouraged. You don't get punished for that. But the Germans are like, no. We don't have emotions. You should never have had that emotions in post-game like that. Germans are fiery. They're fiery people. And for him to be fiery and emotional and defending his team, if I'm a sport director, I applaud that and I defend him. They threw him under the bus. And I guess it's a cultural thing, Bjorn. I don't know. You're the more German of the two of us. What do you think?
I mean, I agree with you that this presumed outburst would not really raise much of an eyebrow in many other places, so that's true. I think clearly things were already problematic behind the scenes, or else this wouldn't have even gotten such a reaction. And I mean, the Sportdirektor, the way he put it was like, this is just another example for this general lack of discipline that he observed among the entire team, and Glasner, who also got sent off that time. So they did not see eye to eye. Whatever this outburst thing just kind of brought it to light. I think that in itself was not the problem. It's just I think it's just an indication of an already otherwise strained relationship.
I, as a fan, though, if I were a fan, I would look at that and I would blame the sport director. I would blame his ego, not the coach's ego. You know what I'm saying?
But the fans only care about results.
Exactly.
Like if the new person
Glasner's about to win 2 titles in 2 seasons.
Well,
if he's my coach, I'm like
RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig would like a word. I mean, I think there's I don't think they're favorites in that final. I think that's so he hasn't
dare
won it yet.
to predict an Eintracht Frankfurt RB Leipzig game, Bjorn. No, it's a 50-50. No one's favorites of that game. You think RB Leipzig are high favorites?
I think Leipzig are in good form. I don't know. We'll see how it goes the next couple of games, but they have come together in a way that Frankfurt has not. Like they have not looked good in recent weeks. They certainly. I mean, this is just it's like how it goes, peaks and valleys. It's a long year, and I think this final, unless something happens in the next 2 weeks, this final we'll see comes at a better time for Leipzig than for Frankfurt, I think.
If I am someone like Hertha Berlin or someone, a club who we'll talk about in a second, that they might not even be able to survive on financial rules alone. But if I'm a club like that and I need someone to save my ass, I would call Oliver Glasner and I'll be like, we'll do whatever it takes. You're the sport director and head coach. Come here, design the team. Like you're in charge, save our souls. Like that would be a great appointment. And if I'm a sport director or if I'm a chairman of the board type, I would be more open to emotionally how that would work. How do I say this? Like I would be flexible.
Just put up with the guy. Just put up with his shenanigans
within reason. If he's a passionate, competent head coach, which he is clearly proven, then you say yes and to that. I mean, how many other great coaches are available in Germany right now? Honestly,
no,
it's Nagelsmann and Glasner right now. Those are the
two. Okay, well, I mean, yeah.
And then maybe if Jürgen Klopp decides to quit Liverpool and come back to Germany.
Oh, so the top guys are Klopp, Nagelsmann, Glasner. I think Oliver Glasner has the chance of becoming the Kai Kamara of Bundesliga coaches. Kai Kamara is that kind of a, he's about to become the second highest scorer in Major League Soccer's history, but he's done it for like 11 different clubs. So he's clearly quite good, and he clearly also has some other issues. Or else he would have been
for our Bundesliga stands. Kai Kamara is a player in Major League Soccer who's 39. He's played
38 years old. Has played for 11
except for the Red Bulls.
11 different clubs. So he's good.
Yeah.
Enough,
what if Oliver Glasner?
He's good enough to keep getting jobs, but he's something also happens where these relationships sour quickly.
Well, that's another thing where it's like maybe they don't yes-and him enough. I don't know. I don't want to get into it. He got a huge fine from MLS for wearing miscolored socks one game, and he took pictures of it. And he had a press conference. And he said other people don't get fined like I get fined. It was a whole thing. And honestly, I'm not convinced he was wrong. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm on Team Kai Kamara for that.
So you think
the theme here is more empathy.
People should just put up with other.
It's not about putting up. It's about meeting people halfway, and it's about yes-anding people's true selves. What's the whole point of being like you have to behave yourself a certain way? Let a person be a person. Oliver Glasner was mad because his players were attacked by a journalist.
He didn't get fired for that press conference.
But do you understand what I'm saying? If that's how he behaves,
I think
then know that. Be fine with that. Like, why are you trying to replace him with some AI coach? Just go hire an AI then. If you need someone without a heart. I'm saying I want my coach to have a heart. And we'll talk about that in hour 2. Hour 2. But what I'm saying is I'm curious if people have enough empathy and if people meet others halfway enough. If people people make mistakes. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? And I wonder if head chairmen of the boards and sport directors are quick to fire as opposed to let them flow.
Maybe. I mean, I think with this kind of thing, it's very, very hard to answer in the abstract. It's complete speculation. I can certainly imagine it both directions. I could imagine a Sportdirektor being too quick on the trigger. I think we see that pretty frequently. There's also things that I can imagine coaches doing where you're just like, that's not what we're not gonna tolerate that. So I can see it. And sometimes it's also just like different philosophies, different visions. I think this is always about specifics. It's hard for me to have an opinion about that abstract.
Yeah, I want to be a fly on the wall. I want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about a reality show, Drive to Survive. I would love for a reality show called like Glasner
Unplugged.
Glasner Unplugged. I want to take a look firsthand at what we're talking about here. You want to say, speaking of stability and long term and in the news last week, we saw Thomas Muller threaten to leave Bayern München for another Bundesliga club because he's not getting enough playing time. Now, granted, did Thomas Muller himself say that, or is that just journalists and tabloids? We don't know.
He very emphatically after the game said that there was no truth to this.
Excellent. Now, granted, that's just tabloid talk, but I wanted to bring it up because Bjorn.
Yeah.
What can you imagine Thomas Muller? Because in my head, I'm thinking he goes to MLS, goes to LAFC,
Augsburg,
or he goes to Saudi Arabia. So is that where you're going? If he goes to any other MLS club in MLS, you're thinking it's
any other
Bundesliga club. You think it's Augsburg just because they're an hour away? Is that the club he goes to? Where does he go? Where does he play?
It's very hard to imagine him playing for another Bundesliga team. I would say that would be very, very odd.
Yeah, nothing fits. Like Augsburg might make sense if he wants to kind of semi-retire but stay in Bayern where his horses are, and maybe he's from Augsburg. He's from München. He's born and bred München. There's that famous photo of him in all his Bayern München gear when he was 10 years old. And so like Augsburg's it's just a different club. That would be weird.
I mean, he could go to Italy. Italy is the new retirement league. I didn't watch the Milan derby on Wednesday. I was just like, I just checked the scores and it was like Henrik Mkhitaryan, Edin Dzeko. I was like, I didn't realize this semifinal was played in 2016.
I'll be honest, I missed it too. I just had a little interest.
It was all these, and then Giroud comes off the. It's like Lukaku. It's like it's the Serie A is the true retirement home. That's where
maybe
that's
Giovinco. Maybe Giovinco comes on.
Giovinco's gonna come on. Yeah. So that's always an option for Miller, but I don't think
that tablet article he specifically said the Bundesliga though. He didn't say.
Not going. That is wild. I mean, it's hard to imagine that if he went to Dortmund, that'd be radical.
Him and Marco Reus side by side.
I would respect that, but that's not
me too. I think that'd be fun. Maybe go see his old friend Mats and whatnot. Anywho, we got the late game. Leipzig, Bayern, and then we got Bochum and Hertha. We got all sorts of big weekend in the Bundesliga.
Two games left.
As we count down Leipzig, last line defense. Thank you very much for the Deutschland Hour. As always, we have merch
on the other side.
Schnitzel Boys merch shop, Etsy. See you next week, or if you're talking MLS, see you over the MLS USA Hour. Tschüss, bis nächste Woche.